body language. We know that such a high percentage of our communication is with our body and our tone and our stance and the way that we position ourselves, our arms and our legs. And it's one of the main ways that we invite people or uninvite people to interact with us. So our ability to read this is our ability to know when to proceed and know when to stop, right? If you don't like getting rejected, then this is definitely for you, because you'll know when to approach, when not to approach. You'll know when to engage, when not to engage, when to escalate, when not to escalate. Welcome in, fam. Much love, Trav here. Talking from a variety of contexts. Generally, this sort of content has to do with, like male-female dynamics, romantic or sexual. And there's some of that, we'll talk about that as well, but also in general of just meeting people and when to interact, and people are inviting you into conversation or not into conversation, and so on and so forth. And I also want to talk about, maybe I have another video on this, but talk about passive socialization versus active socialization, because you have invitations are across a gradient of scale, and they can be towards more active socialization or passive socialization. Active socialization being like one-on-one conversation or playing a game together, and those are the most basic physical, one-on-one physical touch. Whereas passive socialization could be like watching a movie together, or going to watching a sports game. Or really passive could be like two people reading their own book in the same room. Or really passive would be like working on a computer in a cafe, because some passive socialization is nice compared to antisocial. So just some definitions there. So signs of invitation versus signs of uninvitation. From like the dating stuff, RSD and what's his name? Mystery method, to talk about IOIs, indicators of interest. That's sort of a different thing. Indicators of interest is like, is this person into me? Well, they may be into you, but they also might not be inviting you at this moment because they're doing something else. It's a different concept of whether someone is inviting you versus whether someone is interested in you. So basics, for example, of invitations is across a gradient. So we'll work down from very inviting to slightly inviting to more ambiguous, towards uninviting, towards very uninviting. So very inviting is like someone calls you on the phone and says, yo, you want to hang out, right? Or someone approaches you on the street and says, hey, you want to hang out? That's really fucking obvious that they're inviting you, right? Duh. Also to back up, because we're talking about phone, active versus passive. Active socialization would be like messaging or calling someone. Passive socialization would be like viewing someone's Instagram page, right? Active is participating, passive is more viewing. Okay, back to signs of invitation. Sign of invitation is, let's hang out or approach. Less aggressive, but a sign of invitation is eye contact. If someone keeps looking at you, that's a sign that they're inviting you to conversation, right? And what are they inviting you for? Whatever's the next step. If you're not talking, the invitation is to talk, or perhaps to close the gap, the distance between you two. Or if you're already doing that, maybe there's an invitation to move, change logistics, or to go to the next thing, or to go from passive to active socialization. Other examples of active. So the very extreme approach, hey, let's hang out. Less extreme, eye contact, continued eye contact, looking. Less extreme, like occasional, looking in the eye one time, passing down the street or in the room or whatever. Less active is pointing your knees, your body towards someone. Also, it can be if you're in a circle of people and someone has their back towards you. Sometimes people do that, have their friends kind of scouted out. Other examples of invitation would be being in a public space is somewhat of an invitation, because otherwise people would be in their own place, right? Or being in a common area. It's not a strong invitation, but it's more, if someone's out in public, they're more open at least. And we'll talk about when they're definitely not. Signs of invitation, yeah, turning their body towards you, open stance, opening the arms when things are crossed. If people open, invitation to continue, someone really settles in, gets comfortable. Those are examples of invitation. So starting to move towards more ambiguous and uninviting, closed stance, closed arms, closed knees. Obviously, someone not seeing someone, them being in their private space, probably they're in there for a reason. Other examples of headphones in both ears, sunglasses on. Those are examples, like, don't fucking talk to me. I just have my headphones in. I'm in a public space, but I have my sunglasses on. Because that is closing the ears and also closing the eyes. Closing the eyes means I can't make eye contact. It's the opposite, right? Signs of uninvitation. Turning, not like back to someone, but turning your legs and body away, angled away from someone. Other signs could be, a sign of invitation would be not just eye contact, but smile. Sign of uninvitation would be like maybe response to eye contact is to look away, or avoiding eye contact, or not smiling. Where someone's approaching you, they're inviting you. If they're uninviting you, they're going to walk away from you, right? Or across the street, is very uninviting. Or so there's a spectrum, a lot of examples of invitation or uninvitation that has to do with whether to escalate or to stay the same. Another very inviting is someone's physically touching you. The opposite of that would be someone withdrawing from physical touch and saying, hey, don't do this. So a couple of key things here is that these are signs. They're not 100% indicators. It's not 100% of the time if someone crosses their arm that they don't want to talk to you. It just suggests. So like you don't necessarily have clear green and red lights. It's how you read the sign. Also important to consider is that all this is kind of mood dependent on people. Sometimes people are more social, sometimes people are more antisocial, sometimes people are more extroverted, sometimes it's more introverted. It depends on the time of day, their mood, how their day's been going, and so on. So if someone is very inviting to you, you have the ability to proceed right now, but they're not necessarily very inviting to you forever, right? And if someone is uninviting you, it's not because, I'm thinking of some more signs of that. It's not that they're uninviting you forever, it's that they kind of, just right now, they want to do their own thing, right? They don't want to talk. Like signs of invitation would be, they have their headphones in, they're around you, they pull their headphones out, right? That's an invitation to conversation. Other sign of invitation that I had, well, we don't need every possible example. Try to tie it back in with active versus passive socialization. And I don't know if there's too much to say there. You kind of get it. So just wanted to share that, break it down for you. Basically, the way that this is useful is, in general, when the signs indicate invitation, you can proceed if you want to. If there's uninviting, other example of uninviting. Hey, there's this thing, do you want to come along to it? Obviously, you're invited. If you're not invited, if they don't invite you, or you hear about it through another person, they could have told you they didn't, or they're trying to, like, inviting, like, hey, you should totally come to this, uninviting, like, hey, it's probably not your scene, I don't think you'll like it that much. And again, that doesn't mean like that it's not to associate with indicators of interest, it doesn't mean they're into you or not into you necessarily. It has to do with the context of this thing, right? You don't, people are going to invite you to one thing but not another thing, if it makes sense, right? So don't be butthurt and sensitive and have your feelings hurt. What else? Basically you get enough indicators of invitation, then you can proceed. If you got more, then you can escalate. Another one, okay, how someone responds to physical touch. There's strong and weak. If someone wants you to continue and escalate, if you touch someone, say, hey, that feels really good, or they'll make a pleasurable moan sound. More ambiguous is if no response, they don't say anything. That's closer to uninviting. Uninviting is, again, withholding, withdrawing, or turning away, right? So if you get enough signs of uninvitation, just don't proceed right there, because that puts people in a position where they have to reject you and where they have to say no, which they don't really like, and it creates a pattern of that. You don't need to swing at every pitch. You can wait for the right pitch to develop in the series and go for that one. So just want to share that with you, and I want to hear what you think about this, how you feel about this content, and more analytical stuff like this. I think it's pretty useful stuff. And for those of you in the comments, share what other signs of invitation or signs of uninvitation that you see and how you feel about it. Would love to hear from you. Look forward to hearing what you have to say, and look forward to making more content and like this. Shout out, much love from the sheep and Tibu here. So peace out, much love, and talk soon.